Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And if you're a YouTube user, click the bell, enable notifications so they let you know every single time a new episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast goes live. Are you guys sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video games? Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create a wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation. It's all included. Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family and you want your name in shout-outs like my buddy John down in Texas, then check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. We have loyalty rewards. Any $15 contribution gets to co-host an episode of Going Live with me, and our $7.50 a month contributors, you get to be entered into a drawing for also hosting a live episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you've got questions, comments, concerns, anything you want us to talk about, pop over to the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, 267-642-1160. Give us a shout. It's a talk-to-text service where you can tell us anything you want us to address in a future episode, and we will try to get to as many of those as we can. Don't forget to head over to the homepage of the Pro Wrestling Podcast at ProWrestling.com, where you can find all things pro wrestling and keep in contact with us here at the show. So, conversational topics. I mean, it's been a little while. We've had a little bit of a break from the show. We are going to jump right back into the thick of things here because there's so much to talk about. Matt and Jeff Hardy, the reunion on AEW Dynamite. I think everybody and their brother knew this was going to happen. It was exciting. It's exactly what you were expecting to see. Couple things that were interesting for me. One, the fact that the theme song Loaded, which was not actually owned by WWE, even though they've used it in WWE for like over 20 years, it was not actually licensed to WWE. So AEW, went and did their due diligence. They went out, they signed a licensing agreement to be able to use the song, and now the Hardys are able to use that in AEW, which is interesting because it's almost like taking a jab at WWE without taking a jab at WWE. That being said, my reaction to the whole Hardy appearance and whatnot is I'm kind of perplexed because, first off, I'm thrilled that Jeff Hardy debuted. I really am. I think if he didn't have any kind of drug concerns in WWE, he was just having a really bad night whenever things went down. I think he deserves an opportunity to vindicate himself. So I'm thrilled for that. Some of the booking I'm a little confused with because, first off, you've got Matt Hardy in the ring getting jumped by literally 6 people. You have Darby Allin and Sting come out to make the save, who are then getting beat down 6-on-3. And then you rock out the Hardys music. Jeff comes out, and while his brother Sting and Darby Allin are getting beat down 6-on-3, he's dancing while he's making his way to the ring. Now, I don't know about you. If I was going to save somebody's tail, I would probably not be dancing, not for 1 second. You could always dance afterwards. I would get to the ring. I wouldn't be standing there dancing. So I think that was a little hokey, a little bit weird. Then he runs down to the ring. He cleans house. He hits some great moves. He does his swanton, all those types of things. Big hug with the brother. And then it's almost awkward the way he and Matt stare at Sting and Darby Allin. You would think that Sting and Darby Allin would team up with the Hardys to take on the members of Andrade's stable there who were jumping them. But I saw reports today where there's a conversation of potentially having the Hardys versus Darby Allin and Sting. If you do that, I feel like you moved right past the whole face turn for Matt Hardy, which there's some valuable business that could be done there. So I'm a little confused is the best word I've got for why things ran the way they did with that. But at the same time, who cares? I really couldn't care less. I'm just happy to see them in AEW united again. And it was really great to just see that embrace and whatnot. It was very nostalgic, but it was also very contemporary. So I thought it was done pretty well. In an interview after the fact, there was conversations with Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy on his YouTube channel where he made it clear on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast that they want the AEW World Tag Team Championship. Matter of fact, he says, quote, "It means that it's time for us to cement our legacy as the greatest tag team in all of space and time. There's one last major title that we need to win, and that's the AEW World Tag Team title." And to be perfectly honest with you, I see no reason, especially when you look at the tag team landscape in AEW, that they couldn't do that. And I think that would be a great booking decision for the Hardy Boys going forward. In other tag team news in AEW, though, you saw FTR fire Tully Blanchard backstage argument or whatnot. I thought it was a little weird, Tully Blanchard's there. I'm here to help you win championships, not for family business and whatnot. What a ridiculous reason to separate Tully Blanchard from FTR, which, if we're being honest, they're the AAA World Tag Team Champions. So you got them championships. I don't know why that was even a conversation piece. It's almost like a really strange way to get him out of the group. I don't know. Maybe he's tired of touring. I don't know. But I actually appreciated everything Tully Blanchard brought to FTR. Now, they go out today, and it was funny because Dax Hardwood took to Twitter, and he reached out to Bret the Hitman Hart and said, "Hey, Bret, what are you up to?" Maybe bringing Bret in as their new manager would be interesting. There's a long relationship with FTR and Bret Hart, going all the way back to when Jim the Anvil Neidhart was being inducted in WWE Hall of Fame, and a fan ran into the ring. The FTR were some of the guys who jumped in and legitimately beat the snot out of the guy who jumped into the ring. So there's clearly some really strong bond there. And if that's something that we end up seeing, I'm kind of curious how that would play out in terms of Bret's relationship with WWE. I mean, he's not under contract from what I understand. So he'd be an interesting replacement. I don't know that Bret wants to be a manager, though, and if he was going to be a manager to anybody, you would think it would be somebody in the Hart family. But hey, who knows? You never know. Last tidbit of AEW news tonight, actually two last tidbits. First off, the Thunder Rosa becoming number one contender again to the AEW Women's Championship. It's been done to death now. The girls have had two fights, and in both of them, Britt Baker has come out on top. Like, how many times do you put Thunder Rosa in there? And don't get me wrong, if Thunder Rosa would have won the championship at this past pay-per-view, I would have absolutely looked for a rubber match. But she's lost twice. So what happens if she wins the championship in this opportunity, which will be a steel cage match? What happens then? Do you go to a fourth match? Because the champion really, I know people talk about like not having mandatory rematches, but isn't that really what's going on here? She's getting a rematch almost instantaneously. So this time it'll be in her hometown, San Antonio, Texas, to try to win the championship and whatnot. It should be interesting. They put on great matches. I mean, the two ladies have incredible chemistry, but I just wonder about the booking. I'm not a huge fan of the booking. And the other thing I'm a little concerned with is the booking of Chris Jericho. You do this feud with Eddie Kingston. Jericho is a world-class former multi-time world champion. He's done everything there is to do in the business. And I get you want to put over new stars, but I'm just being honest. If I'm Jericho and I'm going to put somebody over, it would be somebody on a Sammy Guevara level. It wouldn't be an Eddie Kingston. And I'm not knocking Eddie Kingston. I think Eddie Kingston is severely underrated. He is such an incredible talent. I just didn't think this was the time and place to have Jericho lose. Now, if you did that to set up this new faction, the Jericho Appreciation Society that he put together on Dynamite, I guess I could see that. And I don't think wins and losses do that much to Chris Jericho's legacy at this point. A little weird to see Team 2.0 and Daniel Garcia align with Jericho and then see Jake Hager come out and almost look confused and then side with Jericho, obviously setting up this big factional thing again. Like, I don't know what AEW's obsession with these factions is, but whatever it is, more power to him if it works. But I'd love to see Jericho continue to evolve himself. I mean, him getting into another group, I don't have a problem with another group. I just don't know that would have been the talents that I would have chosen for the alignment. But hey, I'm not the one booking. Tony Khan is, who, by the way, is also going to be the one booking for Ring of Honor as he purchased Ring of Honor. Apparently, the sale of Ring of Honor is not actually pen to paper yet. It'll be done, looks like, the first week of April. And there was news out today that, some long-standing Ring of Honor employees are no longer with the company, effective immediately. So clearly there's some shakeup going on there. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But a lot of questions here about Ring of Honor. And then, to some WWE stuff. Let's be honest. We can't have a show without talking about a little bit of WWE. Oh, you know what? I should pause right there. I can't forget Scorpio Sky. Winning the TNT title. I'm thrilled for Scorpio Sky. Don't get me wrong. I think he's an incredible talent who really isn't considered on the level of a world champion. Couple reactions, though. First off, it's being reported that they wanted to have him have a TNT championship run going all the way back to early 2021. Fine with that. That the Cody Rhodes leaving AEW changed up the plans a little bit. I'm fine with that too. But what were the plans going to be if he didn't leave? You took this interim TNT championship and then the legitimate TNT championship. They wrestled. There's a winner. Now you got two belts. Why do we still have two belts? If Cody's gone and that's over, and you've already taken care of unifying the interim and then permanent TNT belt, why do we still see two belts? These weren't two different championships. One was a guy who was a placeholder until the real champ came back, and then they unified them. Like, it seems just a really odd to me that they're still carrying two belts around. He's not a double champion. He's got one championship. He's the TNT champion. Get rid of the second belt. As I said, I'm fine with him winning the championship. My concern is this. You have spent the last 2 to 3 years building up MJF, and you have this relationship between MJF and Wardlow that Wardlow finally gives up the diamond ring, and CM Punk gets it and uses it at the pay-per-view, clearly making it so Wardlow is no longer going to be aligned with MJF. If that is the case, Wardlow's going to be about as over as anybody can be. Now, what do? Do you have him challenge next week, Scorpio Sky, for the TNT Championship and have MJF cost him the title, setting up their feud? I get that if that's the direction you go. I just think that right now, because Wardlow finally turned on MJF with the ring, that he's never going to be as hot as he is right now. I mean, maybe I could be wrong about that. I mean, he got forever's a long time, so who knows? But I wouldn't want to see him lose in his first match after separating from MJF. I think that's a bad idea, especially after he's been just rifling through people for the last several months. I think at some point you got to give the guy something that legitimizes him as a top star and a future world champion. And I think giving him the TNT title would be great. Problem with that now is that Scorpio Sky just got the belt. Is he a transitional champion for a 1-week reign? You could have done that with Sammy Guevara and not had to do anything with the championship this week. It would have made the championship feel more legitimate. If you do change it that fast, then it kind of takes away some of the credit you've built up in that belt, which I would argue is as important, if not more so, than the AEW World Championship because of how well it's been defended and the quality of matches that they've had, almost like the X Division over in early days of Impact Wrestling, TNA Wrestling. So I don't know how you progress with this. I really don't. It's interesting. And if Scorpio Sky were to somehow, whether it's some, chicanery leads to him retaining the championship, where does he go from here? Dan Lambert's America's Top Team situation is just funky for a singles champion. I mean, I guess there's something there. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But happy for Scorpio Sky. I mean, I've been a fan of his going all the way back to a Championship Wrestling from Hollywood days, followed his work all the way into Ring of Honor. He did a couple things in TNA at a few points, and now into AEW. So he's incredible, and he's deserved this for a long time. I'm just not sure about the presentation and how they're going to book this thing. WWE side of things, Bron Breakker losing the NXT Championship, kind of a shocker for me. Good for Dolph Ziggler. I think he gets so underused, it's ridiculous to begin with. I expect that at NXT Stand and Deliver, we'll see a rematch. I actually kind of hope that Braun doesn't win because that would clear the way for him to come to the main roster. He has been... I mean, he's on the level with Kurt Angle for how quickly he's picked up the business. I mean, let's face it, he's still a rookie. He hasn't been in the business even a year yet. He was a football player, dabbled with the NFL, and then gave that life up to become a wrestler. I mean, looks and moveset and everything just like his father and his uncle. Word is they may be going into the Hall of Fame this year, so that would be interesting to see him induct them. I'm sure they would give him that honor. But what do you do with Braun at this point? Because he's got so many possibilities. Much like Sammy Guevara did a few weeks ago until you just took away his TNT title. Braun could be, I mean, in all honesty, he could be the best wrestler in the world at some point in the near future if he continues to develop as fast as he's developing. He is incredible, and I love everything about him. Honestly, if I was a new fan getting into the wrestling business, Bron Breakker would be somebody that I would absolutely put at the top of my favorites list. And I'm hoping WWE doesn't mess this up. But who do you put him against on the main roster? He is, he's muscular, but he's athletic. There's a lot of guys you could work with. I would love to see him and Seth Rollins get into the ring. Do you do something where he wins the NXT Championship at Stand and Deliver and then faces Seth Rollins, who has no match at Mania right now, which is kind of scary that we're this close to Mania and Seth Rollins has nothing. And the other thing about WWE is Cody Rhodes. The word is WWE still wants him for WrestleMania. The problem is you better hurry up and put together his program or you're not going to have time to build anything. And it's not the kind of thing that you could surprise people at Mania with. I guess suppose you could, though I don't think I'd be a fan of that. And I know some people are going to hate me for saying this. You have to debut him as a baby face. No matter how much people want to hate Cody Rhodes, This is the first major jump from AEW to WWE if it comes to fruition, and I think he should be strategically positioned as a top babyface, at least initially. He does have that persona, the swagger, and the look that can easily transition into being a heel whenever you want. But upon entering WWE, I really feel like in my heart that the best thing for him would be strategically positioned as a babyface to start. We can always get to the heel stuff later, but let's start him out as a babyface. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode where we run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com where they produce any music or sound we use in our shows. Today's show is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game by going by Beazle Games, going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen to pick up a copy today. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Dr. Fro, and I want to thank you so much for taking a few moments with us today. Until next time, take care. Have a great night.